I'm going to talk today just a few minutes, and at the end I'm going to let you ask questions. I think a lot of you would rather ask questions about what we're doing and what we're not doing. I just want to talk a little bit about consistency, and if sometimes you get your program going and how to kind of keep it going. I'm kind of a student of the game. In the last few years of being a head coach, I spend more time talking to people, not really about X and O's, but about how to make your program better. You get it to a point, at least try to keep it to that point or try to get it better. And that's hard. That's real hard. In the last 5 years, we're 43-9 at Auburn. Most people don't know that. We don't get a lot of publicity for some reason. And, we don't complain about that. But we have the 4th best record in college football in the last 5 years. And the only team that's got a better record than us is LSU. They've won 44 and lost 9. They're one game better than us. But the one thing that I'll tell you through consistency, that what we do at Auburn, I don't worry about anybody else. If you're coaching at a high school and you're playing in a conference, and if you're worried about one of the other teams, the one thing I learned from guys that I grew up with and learning under, Jimmy Johnson, Larry Lacewell, a lot of guys, the one thing that I learned very quickly from them was don't worry about anybody else. Worry about what you can control. Worry about your football team. Worry about your players. And don't spend 1 minute's time worrying about anybody else, because every minute or second you spend worrying about somebody else is going to take away from what you're doing. But we're proud of what we've done at Auburn. Again, we haven't been a great football team. What we try to do is get a little bit better each year. The one thing I'm going to tell you that has made us better and made us consistent more than a lot of people, and I'm just going to throw a little advertisement out here for it. If you do not have an FCA program on your campus, you need to try to start one, because there's more to what we do than just coaching football. Football is a true team sport. It is a true team sport. Remember I said that. You can take one player in high school or college basketball and win a lot of games. But if you don't have 25 or 30 or 40 players playing together in football, you can't win, and you can't win consistent. And that's what it's all about. We're a group of guys trying to get a group of young men to play together in an organized war, so to speak, playing hard, playing together, and play consistent. That's what we're trying to do. So we all look for ways to do that. And at Auburn, we got to Auburn, I hired an FCA chaplain, guy by the name of Chet Williams. He is the reason that we've won what we've won. And we've been pretty good at times. We've been pretty consistent. But he has taught a lot of things to our football players that a football coach could never teach. Now, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about getting along with people, putting up with other people when, you might not want to do that. If you're having problems with a teammate, how to overcome that. We're trained as college and high school coaches at any level, to deal with young guys in a fashion to get them out there to go run through somebody and play tough and play mean. It's tough. It's tough for us, to put our arm around them at times, but if you don't have love on your football team, if your players don't like each other, you're not going to have success. And it's going to affect what you do as a coach. So what we did a few years ago is we hired Chet Williams, our FCA director, and he's just become a mentor of our football program. And you don't have to have a FCA guy. You can bring in a local young minister to come in and work with your football players, and you'd be shocked how much it'll help your team. It'll do more than X and O's, weightlifting, any of those things. It'll build team camaraderie. We started a program a couple of years ago. We are actually the training program for FCA all across the country in training chaplains. We go out and raise $300,000 a year. We got a guy hired on our campus that brings in 4 or 5 girls and guys. He trains them for a year, and he places them in universities across the country or high schools. And I tell you, it's made a lot of difference. I have had more comments from coaches across the country about our FCA program and how it's helped them win and become more successful and change people's lives than I have about games that we've won or things like that. So, if you're looking for a key to success, that's one thing I'm going to tell you. Go back and find you somebody that can be around your football players other than yourself and your coaches. I'm not talking about one of your coaches being a part of your FCA. I'm talking about a young person away from your program that will come in and spend time during the week with your players. It will change the lives of your kids. and it'll affect them. And that's what we're in it for. You know, we're in it to help these kids grow up. You're helping them grow up from adolescence to, you know, young teenage years to the older teenage years, and then, of course, we take them at the point they're 18 years old. They know everything. You know, they come to our campus, and they're away from home for the first time. And, you know, if my phone rings after 9 o'clock at night, it ain't never any good. You know, it's always pretty rough. But that's one point of advice. If you don't get anything out of this clinic, or out of even what I say, you know, think about that a little bit. Think about that with your staff. Think about that. Make somebody in your community a part of your football program that doesn't coach, but comes in and sits down with the players after practice, visits with them after games, before games, and you'd be shocked how many lives you can change. And again, this is not a spiritual talk. This is a talk about changing people's lives. But we hired a guy, and I'm telling you, he's the reason that we've won the games that we've won. The year we went 13-0, he changed many lives on our football team. We could have never done that without him. And again, it wouldn't have made any difference how many All-Americans we had. And again, it's any form of football program. If you've got somebody that can help mentor these kids, and they all have problems. You know they do. They all got problems, and you see it every day. You know, they can help you much more than you can, because they can do a lot of things behind the scenes that you'll never know about. So think about that when you go out and think about getting somebody to help you. You know, the one thing that we work at Auburn, and again, you hear a lot of people talk about certain things about, you know, why you're successful. You know, and again, it's all, you think, you know, I got to have the best scheme, the best offense, the best defense. I'm going to out-coach the other guy and do those things. But it goes back to the FCA director being able to get people to play together, play hard together. You know, but the one thing I have learned in life is if your football player's attitude's in the right way, in the right situation, you've got a chance. And a lot of people talk about attitude. They really don't know what attitude is, but attitude is 20% of having something happen to you, and 80% about how you react to that. Whatever happened to you, whether good or bad. You know, attitude is a way of life, and you know we've all been through it. You know, we've all been through tough times. We've all been through good times, and you know the one thing that we all like about coaching is you see kids grow up, you see kids have success, change their lives, go from poverty to a situation. In our situation, sometimes we bring them in, they don't have shoes to wear, and then go off after they leave college and get a degree and sometimes make millions of dollars. But again, it all goes back to having that success starts with attitude. And if you can have attitude, you've got an opportunity. And you know, we work on it every day. You know, we have sayings that we put in our building. The one saying that's always stay with me. Jimmy Johnson had one saying in our building the whole time that I worked with him down at the University of Miami. Positive attitude plus effort equals performance. I thought that, you know, when I used to walk by that when I first started working with him and looking at it and not even thinking anything about it. A lot of people didn't really know Jimmy Johnson. You know, he wasn't a great football coach. Jimmy Johnson was a psychologist. You know, Jimmy was a psychology major. And, you know, he didn't do a lot in the football part, but he worked a lot with the players in terms of understanding themselves. You know, he's the one that taught me about tough love. And he's the one that always talked to our team about, we're all tough and we all do these things in a tough way. We always want to look mean. You know, we want to out-hit the other team. But if you don't love each other on the team, you're not going to make it. I mean, you used to talk that about our players. And I mean, you're talking about a bunch of guys at the University of Miami now. They weren't a bunch of church-going kids down there at the time I was down there. It was a group of guys that were pretty tough, pretty mean. But he taught me a lot about that. You know, positive attitude. If you've got a positive attitude and you put the effort into it, you're going to have a chance to perform. And there wasn't a day go by he didn't talk to the kids about that. And the more and more he talked about it, the more and more I looked at that saying on the wall. Every time you walk around the corner, he'd have it always posted up there or painted up there. And I thought it was interesting. And he told me years after he left and went to the Cowboys, he thought that was the most important thing that he ever learned in football was having the positive attitude with the effort. some people have positive attitudes. They don't give the effort. Some people have effort. They don't give a crap. And so that's, you pick up things from certain people, and you start believing in it. And, you go back to another thing, the attitude. If you've got attitude and you believe. Somebody asked me one time, he says, what does believing mean? I had it written down or something. Believing, if you believe in something, you usually become it. And again, I got this from a guy speaking at a clinic one time, and I started thinking about that. And we talk about that all the time with our players. If you believe in something, you'll eventually become that. We had a young man at Miami one time that we had a heck of a football team. I coached linebackers most of the time I was there, then became coordinator. The last couple of years I was there, I was very fortunate. I had 3 linebackers. One, Darren Smith, who played 10 years in the NFL, 10, 12 years. Had Jesse Armstead, played 10 or 12 years. Michael Barrett, 10 or 12 years. They were all 3 All-Americans on one team. They were great kids. They were 3.5 students. And, they loved each other. They're very tough guys. And then when I went out and, we knew we were going to have to recruit some young players to come in behind them. And I looked at this one kid, and he wasn't very highly recruited. He was a pretty good football player out of Lakeland, Florida. He was about 6'1", about 205 pounds. And I recruited him. We got him signed. He was very close on his grades, as all the kids are nowadays. And he comes in and he says, Coach, I was going to play him at safety, to be honest with you, because he was so, 205 pounds. He said, Coach, I'm going to be a linebacker. I said, that's fine. You'll start in linebacker meetings today. This is his first day on campus. You go in, I want you to meet the guys. These are good guys that you're going to play with. You can learn from them. I said, but you're going to have to gain some weight. Yes, sir. He said, but, I'm pretty confident. I didn't really know how confident he was. He didn't really talk a lot during recruiting. Didn't say a lot. I was around him quite a bit, but, he's kind of soft-spoken. Played quarterback and he played safety in high school, but had some speed. So we come in the first day, and always in the first meeting, I have the young guys stand up and introduce themselves, and most of them, when they come in, were very timid, and I knew this kid wasn't going to say a whole lot, because he wasn't that type of kid. I didn't think he was anyway. And so we're going around. We had a couple other kids that we'd signed, and we get to the last one. He stood up. He said, I'm Ray Lewis, and I know you guys are all Americans in here, but I'm going to be the best linebacker that ever played at the University of Miami. All these All-Americans look around and start laughing at this kid. Well, come to find out, Ray Lewis is the Ray Lewis that's playing now for the Baltimore Ravens, weighs 250 pounds. But I found out, from his high school coach, after we recruited him, that was the type of person he was. He said, Coach, whatever he believes that he can do, he'll do. He'll work at it no matter what happens. He had tremendous work ethic. But Ray broke me from doubting anybody and what they could do. But he came in, at that time he was 6'1", 205 pounds, almost 6'1", and then he left about almost 6'2 1/2", went about 240. I can remember the first game we played in, Ray, we went out and played Colorado, and Mike linebacker got hurt. Ray had actually played both outside positions, and we decided to play him as a true freshman because he ran pretty good. And I put him in the middle to play against Colorado, and they had a good football team, and we were worried to death about what he could do. He made 19 tackles in that one game. And after that, we figured, well, we got a pretty good linebacker. But, we didn't even coach the kid. That's how important coaching is. Coaching is part of it, but most of it is believing in what you can do and getting the players to believe in what they're doing. We didn't have to get him to believe in anything. He believed he was the best to begin with. We had another young man next year we brought in, but he was a cornerback. Most cocky kid I've ever been around. He had these long dreads and weighed about 175 pounds and about 5'9", 5'10". The DB coach couldn't handle him. He come to me, Sonny Lubick, who just left Colorado State, was out there 15 years, did a great job there. He come to me and says, Tub, I can't handle this kid. I mean, we talk about believing all the time. He says, this kid really believes. And he believes he's the coach other than the player. And I can't handle him. I said, well, give him to me. I'll handle him. And Sonny had just come from Washington State with Dennis Erickson, and they didn't know a lot about handling kids from that area. So I brought this kid in and told him, said, listen, it's my way or the highway. He said, Coach, I didn't mind playing. I just, I thought I'd help the guy out a little bit, coaching. And I said, well, he doesn't need coaching, neither do I. You just need to play. And this kid ended up at 5'9", 180 pounds, probably the best linebacker we ever had. I keep telling people that. We had Ray Lewis and all these other guys. This kid was Rohan Marley. He was Bob Marley's son, the reggae singer. Grew up in Jamaica, moved in with his grandmother, went to school at a high school not far down from the University of Miami, and came in. And a lot of people don't think at that size you can play linebacker. So that broke me also from the prerequisites of thinking, you got to be this size to play this position, this size to play this position. It all goes back to believing you can get it done. And I asked him, I said, you think you can play linebacker? He said, Coach, I got no doubt. I can play anything you want. He says, I'm the toughest guy out here. He believed in what he was doing. And he ended up doing a great job. And, of course, he was he didn't need a lot. His dad sold more records, kind of like Elvis. His dad sold more records after he died, and I think his allowance was like $25,000 a month for the rest of his life. So he didn't need any help buying books or anything at the University of Miami while he was there. He actually paid some of my bills for me at times. So. The last few years, what we've done with our players, you talk about football teams and how to be consistent. We work hard, as all of you do. I try to keep it as consistent as I can with the coaches. This year we lost 2 coordinators, and everybody said, what are we going to do? We lost both coordinators. The one thing about football, change is not bad. I've been a full believer of 2 backs and running the football. I think that you got to run the football, and I think you got to be physical, not only for your offense but also for your defense in practice. Of course, this year I let the offensive coordinator go and brought in Tony Franklin. A lot of you know Tony, and Tony runs a little bit different offense. A lot of you run it spread offense, and of course we've had to defend it. And as we sat down after we decided we was going to change offenses, I don't go to the offensive coaches on, what do you think we need to do? I go to the defensive guys. What is the toughest thing to defend? And so they all said, Coach, we hate playing that crap where they don't huddle and run to the line of scrimmage, and then you get you lined up, and they look after you get you lined up, they look over, and then they call the play. And so we looked into it, and here's a guy for 32 years has been more of a 2-back guy. The one thing that we have done is we've changed, and I think you got to do that. I think you got to change defenses. I think you got to, if you ever think you know everything, then it's over. And so I think the biggest thing for us, consistent-wise, is over the years we've changed techniques, we've changed fundamentals, we've done things to try to make us better. And we try to get as much out of our football players as we possibly can through the work ethic and the weight room and the discipline, and all those things are good talk. But again, I think you got to sell it to your players. But again, I think change is good. Changing this year, we had 9 practices before the bowl game. We changed offenses in 9 days to play Clemson, who's probably a top 10 team in the country. I was feeling pretty good about it until about 2 hours before kickoff, and then my hands started sweating. We're getting ready to play on national television, thinking, what have we done? We've changed a good offense and going to a different offense. But I tell you, our players bought into it, and again, that goes back to one thing. Change sometimes is good. If you're a coach and you're out there and if you just stick with the same things all the time, sometimes you might be losing out. And again, I'm one of those. But I think change will help. I think change will help you in a lot of situations. But another thing that we do to try to stay as consistent as we can is every year, we come up with some kind of saying for our football team. And I think this can be done in businesses. I've heard a few teams doing this. Get your players together and get them to come up with something that they feel like that will work for your team. One year, the 2005 season, our football team, we go through spring practice, and our seniors come to me and said, Coach, we're going to have a pretty good football team. If we can get these younger guys to play for 4 quarters, if we can get them to play all the way to the end. So we came up with the word finish. And all year long, that's what we talked with our football team about finishing the play, about finishing something, about finishing a meeting, about, if you go into a meeting, it's 30 minutes, don't quit listening after the first 20 minutes. Do the little things. But I think if you let your players get involved, I think it'll help. One year we used count on me. If I'm in the line of scrimmage, you can count on me if you're the guy next to me. And this year we used I will. We had a preacher come speak to our football team, and he talked about two things. I will or I'll try. There's two things in life. If you're looking at a situation, if you're playing a football game, if you're at a business meeting, if you're doing something in life, there's two directions you can take. You can say I'll try to do it, or you can say I will do it. It kind of stuck with us. I think that's great. I think it's great in our sport because a lot of people will try. We all try to do something. But if you say, hey, I will do this, and if you can get that over to your players, I think it'll help. I think it's huge. I think it'll help tremendously. And, we do little things like that to keep our players involved. We let our seniors get involved. But over the years, the consistency for us in our football program, all goes back to one thing, hard work and dedication. We'd love for you to come to our clinic and speak to one guy. Probably the most important guy other than our FCA director is our strength and conditioning coach. Your off season is the most important time for a football program. If you don't have a good off season program, then what happens in September and October and November is not going to help you at all, because you're going to get to a point where you're going to hit the wall and you're not going to continue to improve. You can make young guys into men in the off season. We push our guys to the limit. I wouldn't play for us. I really would. We grind them. We get them up early. We run them. We lift them. We ask them to do things sometimes they don't think that they can do, and we push them to the point where, they're almost over the edge. And our guys will tell you, it's hard. And when recruits come into our players, I want them to tell the recruits. I don't want them to lie to them. I want to tell them, hey, listen, you come here, you're going to have to pay the price. You're going to have to do things you don't think you could do. And I think that's what makes you consistent. I think that's what separates you from some other teams. But again, that's part of it. That's the hard part of it. That's the hard part where you got to lay it on the line, and sometimes you got to do something early in the morning, and maybe that you wouldn't want to do, and get to the point where if you spit the bit, who's going to do it in the regular season. But come to our clinic. Kevin Yoxel does a great job. We have a lot of drills that help our football program. We do football drills in our off-season program. We do football lifts. We just don't go in there to look good for the girls on spring break. We grind them pretty good. And there's a lot of things you can do that are football related that I see a lot of people don't do. And again, he's awesome. He's a guy that you ought to come sit down and meet, talk with, discuss, because again, I think all of our football programs happen, in the off season. It's very important. And again, our consistency comes from that. Our work ethic, the discipline, guys that know the guys that are not going to lay it on the line, and eventually you separate the men from the boys. What happens with us in college football in the last few years, we have what we call the presidents have come up with this rocket science business of, what we call the APR. APR meaning graduating players, which we all try to do. And if you have a player leave for any reason, you lose points. And at the end of the 4 years, if you're not to a certain points, for instance, if you're under 930 points, you're going to lose scholarships. And what the presidents have really told us that what we have to do is you got to keep them at all costs. Well, we don't do that. And as I told our coaches, when it gets to the point, if a kid's going to come in and he's not going to lay it on the line, he's not going to go to class, he's not going to work hard, he's not going to play as a team player, then we're going to eliminate him. And again, that's just our business. And it's getting harder and harder for us to do that. But again, we try to make it to the point where they all can do it. But again, in our business, in your level and our level, you got to have team players, and you got to have guys that are going to do it 365 days. If they don't, you're not going to have success. But that's just part of it. But that's just some things that we've done at Auburn that try to make it as consistent as possible. Again, it all goes back to you guys, hard work. Everybody's got their own situation to make it work. I think it's important that you do that. But again, I think it's important too that you try to do things that fit your players. You try to make it hard on them. Again, football's not any fun, and I tell our players know that. It's not any fun until you play on Saturdays, and it's not any fun for your guys. It's a little bit more fun on the high school level because there's a little bit more camaraderie. You don't have as much time to spend with them as we do to grind them. You have more sports and all those things in which we all remember high school especially your senior year was a fun time of your life. That was it. But when they come to our level, we've got to step up a notch, and we try to do that with our players. But again, we love them hard, and we push them hard, and we might try to make them play as a team. And if we can do that, then we've got a chance. But the other thing that I learned a long time ago, and I'm going to let you ask a few questions if you want to ask them. We'll run short on time. Jack took most of my time up here talking about his stuff. But the one thing I'll tell you, in this business, you always want to continue to learn. And I heard this from Morgan Freeman about 10 or 15 years ago when the Shawshank Redemption came out. I know most of you have seen that movie. And I thought the best lines I've ever heard about anything, about life, about what you're doing, whether you're in business or football coaching or flying an airplane or whatever. The one statement always stuck with me that it's really helped me in my career. I think it went like this. It says, get busy living or get busy dying. There ain't no in between. And you think about that. That's a great statement. We're all here on this earth for a short period of time. You're not here very long. I mean, if you think you're here for a long, you young guys, I mean, it's going to go by just like that. I remember yesterday I was coaching for the first few years, and again, I'll be 54 this year and got a few more years to go. But I hope to live 15, 20 more years, and that's basically what the lifespan of all of us in here is going to be, 60 to 70 years old, because of the stress that you're under. But if you ever quit living, you might as well start dying. In other words, if you ever quit learning, if you ever quit trying to get better, if you ever quit trying to improve yourself, your family, all those things, always keep looking forward. Don't look back. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Worry about today. Then you got a chance. But don't quit. Don't start dying. Don't start dying. If you start dying in our profession, you'll get passed up real quick. There's a lot of young people that want your job. And I think that's what keeps us all competitive, and we keep our juices flowing because we can tell behind us people are gaining quick. And in your conference, in your level, in your school, in our profession, in college, the same thing. Everybody's trying to beat everybody. But again, get busy living or get busy dying. I think that's a great statement. But again, going back to the thing earlier, just try to get better. Try to do things that you want to do, understanding that being consistent is the most important thing in our profession. If you can get consistency, then you've overcome it. You're not going to win every game every year, and hopefully you don't lose every game every year. But hopefully you can stay as consistent as you possibly can. Any questions anybody's got about what we're doing? Any questions anybody's got about what we're doing? Weight program, offense, defense. I can't tell you anything about this offense. I'll let get somebody else up here to talk about this spread. I can ask a lot of y'all. Most of y'all running it. Y'all know it better than we do. Any questions anybody's got? Sir? I'm telling you, the best thing that we've done in the 32 years, we kind of fell into Chet Williams and a guy. These kids nowadays most of them have nothing. In your programs, they got a lot more in our program than they do in yours. They're coming from homes that are broken. One out of every, when they come to our place, only one out of every 5 players that we recruit has more than one parent. Only one. And so they come into our place, of course they struggle some. I can imagine what it's like in your place. I mean, you're their father. Most of you, they look up more than anybody. And you'll probably say the same thing. I'm going to tell you this. My high school coach was the most important guy in my life growing up, including my father. Because your father was working, your mother was working, and you spent more time with your coaches, whether it's basketball or football, than anybody else. And they were more of an influence. And if you get somebody to help you in your program, and there's a young person in your town somewhere that's a youth minister or somebody that I'm telling you, would come 1 or 2 days a week to your football team and talk with them, have a group meeting for 10 or 15 minutes where they, pass off cell phone numbers. Most of these kids don't have anything, but I tell you, they all got a phone. We all know that. They've all got a cell phone. And it makes it a lot easier to communicate. Go out and get you somebody that can help your football team. It'll be more important than your offensive line coach or your secondary coach. Your strength coach will be the most important person that you've got on your team. God put us here for a reason. He put us here to help other people. And you can help a lot of people. You're in a great situation to help a lot of people other than just teach them how to run over each other and tackle somebody. And they'll be a lot better people and a lot better football players and play as a lot better as a team if you get somebody like I'm talking about to work with your team. They don't have to be there every day. Just part-time, just become part of this. Give them a coach's shirt. That's all they'd want. Give them a shirt to wear around. Let them stand on the sideline. I mean, you'd be shocked how much it'll change your team. Any other questions? Chuck?
You talked briefly about your changes of coordinators, but you've got a core group of assistant coaches, position coaches, who have been with you for a long time. Could you talk a little bit about them and what they do and what they mean to the program?
Well, we got in 13 years, I've had 7 guys that are still on my staff. You know, you look at what I do. You know, we coach football, right? I've got 100 people that I'm responsible for in terms of employees. I hire and fire 100 people on our staff. You know, managers, trainers, strength coaches, all those. But you know, I brought a core of guys with me, and it's very seldom do you find, you know, the type of continuity that we've had in our coaching staff. And you know, we kind of all grew up in this business together for 13 years. We know each other, and it's important, again, you have consistency on your staff. I was talking about earlier about change, but for us, especially for recruiting and public relations and getting along with players and really getting along as coaches, you know, this is a hard business, and you like doing things together. That's one of the reasons that we're on this business now. If you go back and look, you like the camaraderie of the coaching, and that's a big part of it, and that's helped us. You know, we at Auburn, we're not a school that gets a lot of publicity. You know, we're not the state university. You know, we're Auburn University. You know, we've got a contingent that loves the university, and so the more consistency we can have within our program, the better we're going to be. And you know, we can compete with anybody, and this group's done a great job. I love every one of them. You know, we have piss fights every once in a while. We all get after each other, but you know, that's what coaching's about. You know, but when the day's done, all of our guys have been on the same page, and that's really helped us have some success. Winning games, I look at winning not really whether you win the game, but how you play the game. If you played well, the guys were well prepared, go out and give it all you got, and you don't win, sometimes that's going to happen. You know, we played Georgia this year. You know, we went and, man, our guys laid it on the line. We got the heck beat out of us. You know, that's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of you in here. I mean, sometimes you're going to go play, and it's not your day. That ball's going to bounce the other way. If you ever go undefeated, and there's some coaches in there who've been, I mean, that's almost unbelievable. What the New England Patriots did this year, I mean, it's mind-boggling. You know, pro football, they all can play up there now. I mean, there's no sisters of the poor in that league, and they're on the brink of doing something very, very special. That amazes me. Any other questions? And this is easy. I got out easy tonight. Well, I appreciate y'all coming tonight. I got to be in Fort Lauderdale here in about an hour and a half, so I'm going to scoot on out. But we have a clinic. Jimmy, when is that? February the 28th. Again, Tony Franklin will be there, the star of the show. I mean, he charges you a lot of money to come to his clinic, but you can come to this one. It ain't going to cost you a whole lot, you know. And I told him he's going to have to put one on. But he's going to be talking about our offense. We got a new defensive coordinator in Paul Rhodes. I've tried to hire Paul the last 3 or 4 times I've had an opening. He's from Pittsburgh. He's a Yankee, but he fits in well. He's a hard worker. He knows football. He's very enthusiastic. You know, I had to get somebody. You know, Muschamp, heck, he'd bloody somebody's nose. You know, running into him on the sidelines. So our fans got used to that. So I had to get somebody else that's about the same way. But you know, enthusiasm's a big part of our business, and you know, it starts with yours and goes up to ours, and of course it's no different. So, but Paul's a good coach. We're not going to change anything on defense. We're going to continue to run what we've been running, and I think we've got a chance to be pretty good on that side of the ball. Any other questions? Appreciate you coming. See you soon.